Hey everyone, welcome to Brothers-In-Flaw Sports, and I'm your host Normie, and my other host Cunyato over there. So how you doing, Cunyato?
Doing all right, Normie. Hope everybody else out there is doing a-okay as well. It's good to see you guys. Good to convene one more time here right before a big weekend.
Yes, this is football wise. This is one of those. It's up there. It's a big weekend, and last weekend was pretty good too. But I know for me, I got to wipe a little egg off my face for some things that I predicted the last show. Um, and I know you are probably a little disappointed in the way last week went out too. So, but mainly for our show today, we'll talk about NFL Divisional review. Then we're going to talk about the upcoming conference championships, and if we have a little time later on, we'll get into some Bama basketball. They've been lighting it up here lately, and even some hockey. Right, all right, Cunyato.
Just the briefest of mentions. Phoenix, if you're tuned in, I'm just trying to get tuned in. But yeah, like if we have time, gonna brush over just a little bit.
Good, good. Uh, Maybe one time we can actually have him on and just explain everything about explain to me like I'm five when it about hockey.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what we need right here. Like, what is icing? I
Yeah.
don't know.
And what's the deal with these new pucks that don't work good?
Oh shit, I haven't even heard about that. See, there's so much.
Yeah,
So
awesome bottle blot. It's pucks, but they don't work well.
whole thing to get to.
Yeah. So, but anyway, let's get started off with the NFL Divisional review. So, first game up, like I said, I know you're probably a little disappointed in this one, being a Rams fan. But it's the Rams at the Packers. The Packers ended up winning 32-18. So, Cunyato, what were your thoughts on that game?
Oh man, that one was a rough one. I I said last week going in, it was probably the Packers game to lose, and they didn't. Obviously, Vegas. I said that last week or last show that 6.5 kind of meant that they kind of knew what was going to go on, but it was still hard to watch as a fan. I also said that I thought that Jalen Ramsey was the best cornerback in the league at this point in time. I'm not going to back off of that. I rewatched the game tonight ahead of our show right now. Matt LaFleur in Green Bay motioned Devontae Adams all over the place. There was only about 4 times out of his 9 catches where he was lined up with Jalen Ramsey, and even though he definitely outmoved him a few times, Jalen was still right there to make the tackle. I think maybe one of them went for a first down out of 4 completions against Jalen Ramsey of his 9 catches. Doesn't matter. I mean, all in all, the Packers were more well equipped, and the Rams weren't. The big takeaway is that the Rams have to be more explosive on offense. I would have liked to see that game with Cooper Kupp playing, and I would have liked to see that game with Aaron Donald healthy, because it became very apparent very quickly that Aaron Donald was maybe at 50 to 60%, and every time he was off the field, they gashed the Rams right up the middle. Aaron Jones, uh, no takeaway from him at all. 14 carries for 99 yards. He has had a hell of a season anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But Aaron Rodgers didn't have to do that much. I mean, and when I say that, I mean, he still did plenty, obviously. I mean, they had 484 total yards, but the Packers rushed for 188 yards. Their offensive line was just pushing the Rams' defensive line around. like they weren't even there, which is huge. And props to them, because even without Aaron Donald, I still think that's one of the better defensive lines in the NFL. Uh, it just wasn't meant to be.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it came down to 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and it was a 7-point game, and the Rams couldn't convert, and then the Packers took over and clinched it up and just locked it up. I don't think the score is indicative to how close the game was, but I also think that it still is telling. The Packers controlled that whole game.
Yeah. So I was not able to watch this game. I had a little league basketball game to get to, but I did catch some clips and things. And yeah, and I mean, you got and stat wise, you got Aaron Rodgers. He was 23 for 36, 296 yards for 2 touchdowns. Also had a rushing touchdown. But like you said, he was definitely helped by the 188 rushing yards. And Aaron Jones, my big thing that I saw was he had 7.1 yards per carry.
Yeah. I mean, that's huge. I mean, yeah. I mean, there's not much. I mean, if the man is averaging 7/10 plus of a first down per carry, that is a tough mountain to climb. A lot of that was on a 60-yard scamper, I think, that really broke the Rams back in the third quarter. But I mean, still, I mean, if you watch it, even with Jamal Williams, and I can't even remember the other cat's name. If the Packers wanted to run up the middle and Donald wasn't on the field, who only recorded 1 tackle, which I think is pretty indicative that he was not fully healthy. If they wanted to run up the middle, they took it. I mean, they owned that.
Well, yeah, even Jamal Williams had 65 yards, and his was 5.4 yards per carry.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking 2 carries a first down. And then their defense, though, stat wise, they look like they played a good game. They only gave up 244 yards, 148 passing yards, and 96 rushing yards. And that was a big thing coming into this game because the Rams' previous game, Cam Akers had 130 something yards.
Yeah, I think,
and that was a
6.
Yeah, and that was a big thing that helped them win that game against Seattle. And it looks like the Packers defense kind of stopped that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, they didn't make the Rams one-dimensional. The Rams make themselves one-dimensional, not having a great passing game as is. But Goff went 21 of 27, 174 yards and a touchdown. Obviously not elite numbers, but he wasn't making mistakes.
Yeah.
But they just could not move the ball in chunk yardage. And they couldn't convert third downs. And then as much as I love Sean McVay, I will discredit him to this win before it absolutely has to be it absolutely has to be first downs. He does not get aggressive. Mm-hmm. I feel like you have to be, and now granted, you're hampered a little bit because I do not think Jared Goff is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I mean, we've seen him in 1 Super Bowl and they put up 3 points. I think the lowest point total in Super Bowl history. And in other playoff games and other meaningful games, the Rams just do not have the offense to compete with other teams on that level when push comes to shove.
Yeah. No, they definitely need a quarterback. And draft-wise, they need to do what they can to trade up. Or try and get Deshaun Watson. Huh?
So we don't even have a first-round pick. We've given up the house to be where we're at right now with Jalen Ramsey and Goff and some of the other players, especially Jalen Ramsey and Goff as far as salary goes. That Goff is going to make $33 million next year And
Ooh.
Sean McVay won't say for a fact that he will be the starter next year. So how do you even trade that away?
Yeah, nope.
$33 million on a
Yeah.
$136 million contract. It's like, hey, we don't want him, but hey, do you guys?
Yeah.
And we have no first round picks because of our previous moves. We haven't had a first round pick, I think, in 5 drafts.
Damn.
But
Hopefully, y'all could do something. Trade for somebody. You can't get Phillip Rivers now since he's retired.
I'm not super upset about that one.
Yeah.
Although I do, all props to Phillip Rivers. He is right there on the borderline of Hall of Fame.
Yeah. He'll make it in just because of all the games he played and how long he played and started.
Agreed.
I think he'll make it. He definitely won't be a first ballot, but he'll get in sooner or later.
I think he might be a first ballot just because he's a quarterback, but I don't think he deserves that, which I love Phillip Rivers. I'm not trying to knock him. Just there's nothing that he's done in his career that makes him first ballot worthy. But I think because he's a quarterback and they always get in, I think he might be a first ballot. I kind of disagree with it.
Yeah. Well, I definitely do, even though he's kind of a hometown or close to hometown where he grew up. He went to Athens.
Yeah, sure enough. He grew up right next to you, Normie.
Yep. So then, of course, then he went all the way to NC State. Couldn't stay in.
Auburn and Alabama didn't even recruit his ass.
Yeah.
I mean, swing and a miss for both of those programs because he is an elite talent. I just don't think, as far as elite talent, college football, and where he was, and then NFL, I don't know if he got Hall of Fame love for me personally.
Let's say, just remember, Tim Tebow was an elite talent in college.
Also true.
Well, alrighty. Well, let's move on to this next game. We got the Ravens and the Bills. So the Bills ended up taking this one 17-3. I got to see a little bit of this one, but not enough, not as much as I would like. So, what were your thoughts on this one?
Well, I'll go ahead and clean up some of the egg on my face for this one. I said Ravens in a nail biter, maybe a Justin Tucker field goal to put them ahead. And then Justin Tucker, the most accurate kicker in NFL history, doinks not 1, but 2 off the uprights. Now, granted, those 6 points would not be the difference in the 17-3 game, but I absolutely think that it would have changed the momentum of the game.
Yeah.
I also thought, if you look back on the final score, it's not really indicative to how close that game was. The Ravens were really running the ball well and kind of knifing through the defense on that first drive. And then, Justin Tucker doink number 1. And then Justin Tucker doink number 2. Buffalo is only up by 10-7 with 52 seconds in the third quarter. And then that's when Lamar Jackson throws the worst 101 yards, pick 6. Like timing wise, it broke the back of that team, and you could see it. Now, not only that, he also goes out injured pretty soon after that. But it erased any chance that the Ravens had. But winding down the third quarter, 52 seconds left, they are in the red zone. I mean, 10-7 game. They could have taken the lead, not just tied it up. They could have taken the lead. Field goal would have tied them up if Justin Tucker maybe decided to get his shit together. And also, I'm sorry, Justin Tucker, if you're listening, I didn't mean to curse you like that. I really do respect your game. But after that, I'm sorry, it's 10-3. So it just went downhill from there.
Yeah. Again, looking at these stats, so the Bills defense did give up a lot of yards. I mean, they gave up, 340 yards, 190 yards passing, and for Ravens to get 190 yards passing, I mean they're actually slinging the ball around because they're not really much known for their passing, especially here lately. But they also gave up 150 yards in rushing. Of course, that could be too, passing's not working, and old Lamar Jackson threw a pick six, so I'm not sure how that played into it. But Josh Allen also, he kind of seemed like he had just an average game. 23 for 37, 206 yards, and one touchdown. But the big thing that I saw on there, he only had 3 yards rushing.
Yeah, no, he was not asked to do much with his legs at all. And yeah, the 206 yards. I'm still conservative about the Bills moving forward. That's actually one of the questions I had for you is how do you feel after that game about the Bills winning the Super Bowl still?
I don't think they can. They had 32 rushing yards. That is not going to win you the Super Bowl. 30. I mean, I don't care how good the Ravens defense is. You only having 32 rushing yards. It ain't going to win you no Super Bowl. It'd be in it. I mean, if it were Aaron Rodgers, hey Phoenix, how's it going? If it were Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady, I would kind of be like, okay, maybe there's a chance. But with Josh Allen, I'm not betting on that.
Well, and then another thing, I apologize for my score. I wrote the wrong thing down here, but moving forward after that, Lamar Jackson 101-yard pick six to put the Bills up 17-3. The very next thing that happens is, I think on the second play of the next drive in the third quarter, the snap goes way over Lamar Jackson's head. That's actually, I think, where he gets hurt and gets an intentional grounding from trying to just bail out of that play. I don't think that the score for the Rams game, 32-18, is indicative to how close that game was for the most part. And I don't think that 17-3 tells the whole story of watching the Bills and the Ravens.
Yeah.
I think both of those games were closer than the score really indicates.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. Yeah, I don't see the Bills doing it. They aren't clicking as much as they were prior to the playoffs, and especially after this game, I think the Ravens really showed. I mean, they kind of showed it last week, but this week the Ravens really showed how they do not have a rushing attack. And yeah, Josh Allen will every once in a while he's going to get a 10 or a 20-yard scamper, but other than that, I just see nothing. Of course, they have Singletary still in, but Zach Moss is out. They really don't have any other running backs, so I don't see it. And with the Ravens offense, the Bills seem like they gave them opportunities that other teams are going to cash in on. That the Ravens were just just couldn't cash in on those opportunities. Looking at this week, I think the team they're playing this week are going to be able to capitalize if the one factor is going to be there. But we'll talk about that one later.
Yeah.
All righty. So you anything else on this game?
No. One more thing about that game, which also still kind of talks to what we're going to talk about later. Stephon Diggs is an absolute game changer. Absolute game changer. He had 8 catches, 106 yards, and a touchdown. And Josh Allen, year one, people were willing to give up on him and say that he was a super overreach by the Bills. Josh Allen, year 2, he is middling. He shows flashes, but nothing spectacular. But you can kind of see what he has to offer if he could put the pieces together. Josh Allen, year 3, I think, is made by the acquisition of Stephon Diggs. I don't think that Josh Allen looks as good as he does without Diggs. Diggs has really carved himself out a role in probably the top 3 to 5 range of wide receivers right now, at least for 2020, 2021, moving forward. That's all I've got. I'm excited to see him work against the Chiefs this weekend.
Yeah. And speaking of the Chiefs, so the Browns were at the Chiefs, and the Chiefs did end up winning 22-17, and that was a close ball game, and it was a pretty fun one. And what were your thoughts on that one?
Well, me and you both called kind of a blowout on our last cast for the Chiefs to kind of put the Browns in their place. Obviously, they didn't. That came right down to the wire. Very fun, like you said. I think that if you watch the game, the Chiefs were strictly the better team start to finish, but no shade thrown to the Browns whatsoever. I think that they played their asses off. I think they're a very good football team moving forward. Baker Mayfield made some throws that you can only make in your dreams, basically.
Yeah.
He was accurate when he absolutely had to be, like I've never seen. I mean, if you watch those highlights, I mean, his ball placement is really good. As far as the Chiefs go, I'm fading on them a little bit moving forward. They didn't look nearly as dominant as I thought that they would, but they still controlled the game. Their defense, especially in the pass area, is suspect. Their first drive was absolute money as far as just knifing through the Browns defense. And then speaking of kickers, Butker, I don't know what happened to kickers. I jinxed them both. I guess by talking good about Tucker, I got Butker in the whirlwind of it. He missed a short field goal and then also missed an extra point, which made no sense.
Mm-hmm.
But that's my main thoughts on it.
All right. Well, it was a fun game. I mean, you got Patrick Mahomes, 21 for 30, 255 yards, and 1 touchdown. He did leave the game with a concussion and a neck stinger, something like that.
They're saying nerve damage on the neck. They also say that concussion. He didn't actually have a concussion. Most of his wobbliness, and while he's in the protocol right now for concussion, is due to nerve damage in his neck. Which all indication means that he's probably going to play this weekend. He practiced limited today. I think that obviously is huge for them moving forward against the Bills. Very exciting moving forward.
Yep. Because when Chad Henne went in, he was 6 of 8 for 66 yards and 1 interception.
Oh, yeah.
He did not.
Oh, that interception was terrible. But Andy Reid is a fucking magician as far as at the end, they could take a knee, run the ball, whatever, not get the first down, punt, try and leave the Browns no time. And then on 4th and 1 in their own territory, I think on the 31 or 32, that short little slip route to Tyreek Hill. I mean, he trusts Henne to go do it. and ices the game. That is a baller move. Mad props for that. Another little fact on that is the Chiefs, after that win, become the very first AFC team to host 3 consecutive AFC championship games, the only other team to hold conference championship games 3 years in a row is the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC from 2002 to 2004, coached by Andy Reid.
Yep. Of course, how many Super Bowls do you win?
Oh, none then.
Yeah. But, he's got one now. Also, what I saw is rushing wise, they had 123 rushing yards. But from what I saw, it was split between like 6 people. 6 different people got carries. And Darrell Williams was their leading rusher with 78 yards. Is Clyde Edwards-Helaire, is he still injured? What's his status?
Well, looking forward, I've got some notes on this too. It kind of looks like the Chiefs are about to get healthy at the exact right time. Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Sammy Watkins practiced this week. They had a limited designation next to their names, but the fact that they practiced at all kind of indicates that they will be rolling in some capacity, limited or not, come this weekend.
All right. And then Chiefs defense, or Chiefs offense wise, 438 total yards, and 315 yards passing, and again 123 yards rushing. The Chiefs defense gave up 308 yards, and pretty split with 196 yards passing, 112 yards rushing. Do you see any problems going forward with their defense?
They're suspect for sure. I mean, and they also got bailed out winding down in the second quarter. We haven't touched on. We need to touch on the rule itself for. Damn it, I can't think of the Chiefs receiver's name going into the end zone, and the ball gets knocked out of his hands. He fumbles it through the side of the end zone, so therefore it's a touchback. Defense takes possession at the 20-yard line. At that point, it was a minute and a half basically in the second, and the Chiefs were up 16-3. That would have put the Browns 16-10 if they make the extra point. Let's just go ahead and round it up to 16-10, and then it's a whole different ball game at that point. And instead, the Chiefs take over.
That's I was going to actually have that in my notes that was a controversial no call.
I mean, it should have been targeting.
It's definitely helmet to helmet. It's a 15-yard penalty.
Reviewable. The only part that they could review is, did he fumble it? Yes, he did. Upon review, absolutely he did. And then did the ball roll through because if that ball had just shot out right before the pylon, then it's still their ball, and they take over right there. But it goes into the end zone and then through the side of the end zone, and then the defense gets it. I feel like we really need to address that rule, and that is collegiate and professional. That rule stands for both of those levels of game. It just doesn't seem very fair.
Well, why would you think it's not very fair? So if you fumble the ball through the end zone, I mean, it's the same thing as like a punt or a kickoff. The ball goes through the end zone and goes out of bounds. So what would be your remedy for it? So say the offense does keep possession, but where will they get possession?
Well, okay. For levels of difficulty, varying degrees of difficulty, I'd say collegiately, especially in a play like that, you were about to score. You were about to have the touchdown, and then the worst luck befell you. But you didn't give up possession of the ball to the defense. Let's maybe take it back to the 10 and either whatever down it was then, you start at the 10 and now it's that down to goal. Or if it was something crazy, maybe go to the like 4th and 20 and it happens, go to the 20 and then it's the 20, 1st and 10. And then from professional football, started at the 15. But I don't know. It just seems a really weird punishment for the offense to drive all the way down the field. And then anywhere else they fumble between that goal line and that goal line, and they recover it or it goes out of bounds, it's still their ball. But right there at the goal line or into the end zone, it becomes the other team's ball. It's not very consistent.
All right. Well, I don't know. For me, I always think about those plays where the the receiver gets a long pass, they're by themselves, and they toss the ball up in the air before they cross the goal line. So, what if something like that happens? And they toss it up, the ball bounces through the end zone.
But I've seen more of it work the way that we're talking about against the Browns. Then I've seen the dumbass plays of somebody celebrating too early kind of thing. And even then, don't they deserve the touchdown? They did 98 to 99% of the work. There should be some punishment there.
Hey,
but lose the ball, I just think that might be a little harsh.
Hey, you got to get – that's why it's 100 yards. It ain't 99 yards. It's 100.
If you fumble at any other time between goal line to goal line, it still maintains offensive possession if the defense doesn't recover. And then in that one scenario, not only does the offense not maintain possession, it kind of sets up the other team with pretty good, well, not kickoff starting field position.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't really agree with you, but I don't know. I like the old school way better. Yeah, it's you got to get the ball, or you got to cross the line. Yeah, I remember in football it was always in football it was always finish. You don't if you're running a sprint, you don't stop at 10-yard sprint. You don't start slowing down at 9 yards. You slow down after you cross your 10 yards. I don't know. I
understand the sentiment.
And also too, like I said, with the punts and kickoffs as well, it's the same thing. Once it goes through the end zone or it goes, it bounces through the end zone, then the other team gets the ball. So it's kind of keeping a consistent thing with that. Because on the flip side, if they snap it over the punter's head and it goes back in the end zone, they get a safety.
Well, yeah, but that is punishment for you not having moved the ball. I mean, if it snaps over the punter's head and it goes out of the back of the end zone, well, you didn't get out of that end zone. Like, you didn't move the ball. Like, that defense controlled you and locked you in to where that could be an issue. Whereas the offense has just driven X amount of yards, probably in the at least 40 to 50 yard range, given, especially in the NFL, the average punt range. And then one mistake cost them not just the possession of the ball, not just a 7-point turn, but it just seems a little too harsh for me personally.
Well, I guess we could disagree on that one. Because just making one mistake. I mean, Alabama made one mistake by kicking a field goal that wasn't near long enough, and ended up losing because of it.
I'm going to go ahead and bookmark that. That's going to be a whole different episode. I'll just note it now. There it is.
Alrighty. So now it's time to wipe the egg off my face. and we got the Bucks at the Saints. So the Bucks ended up winning 30-20. And what were your thoughts on this one?
Well, this one I thought was going to be fireworks, and come right down to it, I said I wouldn't be surprised if it was an overtime game. After having watched, I was actually really sad because probably it's probably Breeze's last game, and the Saints. You called the Saints. You called the Saints for maybe a double-digit win.
Mm-hmm.
If Drew Brees was Drew Brees of 2 years ago, 3 years ago, especially Drew Brees like in his actual prime, which really isn't, but 2 or 3 years ago, uh, they win that game. But those three picks were backbreakers, and each one was worse than the last.
Yep.
They added they turned into 17 points of Buccaneers points, and he just cannot throw the ball down the field right now, and he probably won't anymore. Also turns out that Michael Thomas is having surgery on both of his knees or both of his ankles. I can't recall which, but
Yeah.
he's having two surgeries on two different parts on right and left leg because he wanted to be there for what he thought was probably Drew Brees' last push to the Super Bowl. And it just ended in sad.
Yeah.
That was my biggest takeaway from that game is two greats dueling it out, except for one of those greats. The toll of football has really ravaged him and what he can do right now, or probably what he can do, because some people have been talking about him coming back as far as Breeze goes, and he wasn't himself last year, and then he got even worse this year as far as his ability. I would like to see him hang it up, and I think he's going to, even though that is sad to say. But anywho, I think the Bucks are going to be dangerous to deal with, but I think that they fought a paper tiger this weekend.
Yeah. Looking at Brady's stats, I mean, he went 18 for 33 or 18 for 33 and 199 yards with 2 touchdowns. Of course, he had short fields a lot of those times because of those picks. But he also had one rushing touchdown. I mean, you just even looking at that stat, Brady didn't really play lights out. It wasn't a huge game for him either. And also, he was helped out by 127 rushing yards. That was pretty much split between Fournette and Ronald Jones, and it was good to see Ronald Jones out there again. So total offense wise, the Bucks only had 316, 189 yards passing because of the sacks. They take sacks off passing yards in the NFL, don't they?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
they do.
yeah. And then 127 rushing yards. The big storyline of this one, though, was their defense. I mean, the Bucks defense stepped it up. Could it be that they did play a paper tiger? But I mean, 3 picks, a fumble recovery, and honestly, one of the touchdowns from the Saints was a trick play that Jameis Winston came in and threw.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only way that the Saints could throw the ball down the field is a trick play to Jameis Winston.
Yeah. And so if they can do that against the Packers, but the thing is, Aaron Rodgers does a lot, but he does not throw picks very often. He's thrown like 89 or 99 picks his entire NFL career.
It's a pretty insane stat.
Yeah. I think I was reading something where he remembers a lot of them. There's very few people that have picked him twice, but he doesn't throw interceptions. um, and if they could stop that run that the Packers, I, I don't know. We'll see. We'll talk about that one in a minute. But with Breeze, I'm like you. I hate that he's going, but God, I hope he does. I hope he hangs it up just for his sake. I mean, he's got the money. Uh, he also and he like a part owner in the walk-ons restaurants and things like that.
That I do not know. I know John Parker Wilson, but maybe Breeze as well. I don't
I
know.
just remember him being. I think he was in in the commercials for it, and I think he is maybe a part owner in that. But I mean, he's got his money. I say he needs to step out before he gets really bad hurt. I mean, he's got really young kids. Um, I just think he just needs to kind of hang it up and go into coaching or do what Peyton Manning does and the Manning brothers and start being in commercials. You ain't got to. Very rarely do people get hurt on sets of commercials. Um, he's Drew Brees, so he could probably be in commercials and new or at least even around New Orleans for the rest of his life.
Yeah, I mean the man never has to buy a drink in the state of Louisiana the rest of his life. I would like to see him hang it up. He has built an incredible legacy, and seeing him diminished in that game was sad. Uh, I'd like to see him, for the most part, walk out on top because he is, for our lifetime,
Mm-hmm.
and also really anybody else's. He's a top 5 quarterback of all time. I mean, he holds the yardage record. Now, granted, him and Sean Payton were a match made in heaven when they got together.
Yeah.
And it's disappointing that they didn't win more, honestly, especially after that first Super Bowl. You really thought, that was back in 2007.
I think so.
That how young he was, how young they both were, and how prolific that offense was. It was going to lead to more, and then it just never came to fruition. But he was still incredible. And then after this year, after last year, just I think it's time to like take that walk into the sunset for him personally.
Yeah. Especially after this year. I mean, he cracked how many ribs and then had a collapsed lung.
Yeah.
Like that's it's getting into. It's not like a thumb or an elbow or something. It's getting more. The injuries are getting more and more dangerous and more serious. And he's 42, so it's a lot harder for those injuries to heal.
Yeah, not exactly a spring chicken. Although I will say, and another thing that he can take away with his legacy is he is tough as nails.
Mm-hmm. He definitely is. But sad to see him go. But he is definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah, there's no
Um,
doubt about him.
yeah, that one won't be any doubt. So, all right, you ready to move on to the conference championship previews?
You know what? It hurts. It hurts because it's not going to be the what is it? I think they're currently calling our white bone right now. It's not going to be the bone in yellow or the blue and gold or whatever the hell. Anywho, it's going to be the Packers and the Bucks. And yes, I am ready to move on to that. I have braced myself for it. I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be a hell of a game. Speaking of two legends matching up with, speaking of Hall of Famers,
Yep.
I mean, obviously Brady is the GOAT, And Rodgers is the best I've ever seen on the field do what he does until Patrick Mahomes came along. But Rodgers came first.
Yep. So we got the Bucks at the Packers. Do you know the Vegas line on that one?
That is minus 3.5 for the Packers right now.
All right. So let's see. What are your thoughts on this one? How do you think this one's going to go?
Well, I think that there are some things being overlooked. The Buccaneers' run defense has been the number one run defense if you take this year plus last year overall in the league. And they haven't changed all that many components in that front seven other than, I think, Quan Alexander. Now, I think this year they're seventh. Obviously, last year they would have been first to average number one still. But they've still been very good. And where the Packers hurt the Rams was obviously with their run game. Aaron Jones at 8 yards a clip, basically.
Yeah.
I think that will affect the Packers' offense more than a lot of people are predicting or thinking about, because I think most people are just thinking about, well, they've got a good run offense, and then if they're not running the ball well, Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, there's your get out of jail free card.
Yeah.
And the Buccaneers have been susceptible in the past game. So that might not be wrong. I do think that that's going to be a little bit more important this game than a lot of people think. Especially since the Rams were the number 24 run defense for what the Packers did to them. And they looked like the number 24. They really looked like the number 32 run defense, what the Packers did to them this past weekend. But going up against a more seasoned run defense and where the Packers are forced to be a little bit more one-dimensional, obviously you have the tool at the helm. I mean tool in that Aaron Rodgers is kind of a tool. No, I'm kidding. He's a little bit more likable.
Yeah, he's not the. I've heard he's not the most nice guy.
He's a little bit more likable now that I've heard him on some different avenues of media, but he also still, he seems a little arrogant in the least. But to put the whole thing on his back going against Brady, I think it's going to be a little bit tougher than people think. I think a lot of people have the Packers locked in for this game. I wouldn't pick against them, but I wouldn't pick them either. Brady is everybody made a big deal about the weather for the Rams going into Lambeau this past weekend, and they should have. Most of those guys haven't really played in cold weather, like not really. And then the Packers obviously play in that every day when it gets cold.
Yep.
And then you're talking about Tampa Bay, so LA, Tampa Bay, not much of a difference as far as that goes. But Brady cut his teeth in New England, and he is 14-2 when the temperature is below 32 degrees. Now his franchise is 0-8 when the weather is below freezing. But they brought in Gronk, who also cut his teeth in New England and Foxborough, so they know what cold weather's like.
Well, I think there's another cold weather guy you might be overlooking as well. Antonio Brown played most of his career at the Steelers in Pittsburgh. It gets cold in Pittsburgh as well. Not as cold as in Green Bay, but it does get cold.
And then those are just three of your offensive weapons who know how to deal with the cold. My my thoughts on this game, it's going to be very big on how the Packers pass defense can protect against the Buccaneers weapons, because they have them all over the field. I mean, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski, and
Tom,
that's the short list.
I
They
was
have
gonna say,
more. Like that's
and Tom Brady throwing on the ball.
yeah, and then just Tom Brady throwing the ball. Now the Packers have Jair Alexander, who, if it's not Jalen Ramsey as the number one cornerback in the league, it might be Jair Alexander. But that is a lot of targets. That is a lot of targets to keep your hands on.
Yep.
Uh,
He can only guard one person.
exactly. And just a lot of weapons. The the what they've shown so far, I think that the Packers win this game. But I think the Buccaneers will be right there.
I'm going to go out on a limb here. I doubted him last week. If the same defense shows up and can play in that cold weather, it'll be close. I don't think they're going to win though. I still.
I thought you were gonna do it. I thought you were gonna do it.
No, I do. I really do think this one will be closer. I just, especially you talk about Drew Brees. The way he didn't look as good. Rodgers is, I mean, he is peaking. Like he is in, like you've said through all these podcasts. I mean, he is the best he's been. This is the best year he's ever had.
Yep.
I don't see them doing that. I don't see the Bucs defense being able to stop it. Especially from what I saw with them in Washington. I don't see it. So, but I do think they'll keep it close. Brady's going to keep it close, and yeah.
Right. I want to interject real quick before we move on to the next one. I want you to keep in mind that the Tampa Bay Lightning, Phoenix, I don't know if you're listening or will watch later, Tampa Bay Lightning, the hockey team, won the Stanley Cup this past year with only one game at home. The Tampa Bay Rays played only went to Game 6 of the World Series with no fans at Tropicana. And if the Bucs win this game, they will be the very first team in NFL history to host the Super Bowl. I mean, Tampa Bay has it going on right now.
I was about to say that could be, that could give them some kind of encouragement. I mean, they got the Super Bowl at home, and it's in Florida, so they're going to have fans. Might not have near. They're not going to have near as many. All right. So, any more thoughts on the Bucs and Packers?
No, I think I'm exhausted on that one.
Yeah, I had you going there. I don't know. I don't want to pull forward, but then they lose, and then it's like, well, no. My gut's saying though, it's especially after watching the Packers, or I didn't really get to watch much of it, but seeing the highlights and things, and just Aaron Rodgers peaking, running game peaking, they seem like the better team going forward.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's going to be a tough mountain to climb.
Yeah, it ain't going to be easy for them. I don't think it's going to be near as easy as what people are thinking. I don't think it's a direct shoe-in. They still got to go out there and they still got to go out there and play their best game.
Yeah, absolutely.
It ain't going to be just this easy, brush in. So, all right. So the last game, Buffalo at Chiefs. What are your thoughts on this one?
Um, excuse me. Yeah. So a big hinge is, will Patrick Mahomes play? Kind of looking like he will. I mean, that's huge. Obviously,
Yeah.
he is. He's the. He might not win the MVP this year. In fact, probably Aaron Rodgers will, but Patrick Mahomes is the MVP. He is the most valuable player in football.
Yeah.
He's that good. Watching this game just in highlights uh, against the Browns before he got injured, how they can move the ball, what he can do. He's an incredibly special player, but it's kind of looking like he'll play. Now, at what level? That's a huge question. That is an absolutely huge question, because I saw probably the second best player in football in Aaron Donald play this past weekend, but he could only be on the field for about 50% of the snaps. And then when he was on the field, he was clearly hampered. He did not look like himself. He did not disrupt the offense like he usually does. Really took himself out of the game plan. So that's huge. So everything else that I'm going to say, I'm just going to say on the basis that Patrick Mahomes plays, and he plays at 80% or above. Also looks like on the injury report that we're going to get Sammy Watkins. It looks like we're going to get Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And it looks like we're going to get Rashad Fenton and Rashad Breeland. The last two are cornerbacks. They contribute defensively.
Yeah.
If all of those players come to play, I think that the Chiefs win this by about a touchdown. The first matchup, week 6, in Buffalo, the Chiefs went to Buffalo, beat them 26-17. Patty Mahomes didn't even really have to have that great of a game. He only had 225 yards. That was his second lowest total of the year. But the Bills sold out on stopping Patrick Mahomes from throwing the ball, and then the Chiefs ran for 245 yards that game.
Yeah.
So you can't really make a fully healthy Chiefs team one-dimensional. And I don't think the Bills can cope with a fully healthy Chiefs team. And then when the Bills played the Ravens this past weekend, their very first 13 plays were pass plays. So they are already themselves one-dimensional in that regard. And I don't think that bodes well for them in this game. Pure talent-wise, I don't know. Maybe a 50-50 shot, but I think the game breaker is if Patrick Mahomes plays, Chiefs win this game.
Yeah. I'm pretty much right there with you. I mean, like you said, and like I talked about before, the Bills are one-dimensional. They have no rushing. 32 yards. You're in a divisional round playoff game, and you're getting 32 yards. And as far as defensive wise, I mean, they did have the pick 6, but Patrick Mahomes can throw the ball a lot better. Now he's not usually known for his picks. I mean, he did have that like 2 or 3 against Miami, but normally healthy Patrick Mahomes, he usually doesn't throw picks. And it seemed like the Ravens had a lot more opportunities that they just did not capitalize on. Field goals, things like that, where the Chiefs are going to capitalize. I don't, especially with Mahomes, I don't see them having a problem with that. Mahomes doesn't play, that to me is a different story. If I still think they win, but it's not near as convincing. If Mahomes doesn't play, I still think they can. I think Kenny can go in there and they can dink and dunk it and get enough to win.
Well,
But
on that, I think I disagree. I do think that the Bills are a good enough team to where it takes a Mahomes type effort to win. Although not just last game, but in previous games, Henney and Hill and Kelsey have coalesced into a really good offensive unit. I do think that Patrick Mahomes is the gear to turn a victory out for the Chiefs in this game. I think the Bills are that good. I'll give them that respect, but I understand what you're saying too.
yeah, I don't know. Because if Henny plays, they're going to be running the ball a lot, and if they keep the ball, that's going to eat up a lot of clock, and the Bills cannot eat up clock. So I still feel both ways. Either way, I think the Chiefs win. It just depends on how big of the win it is. Of course, I could be coming back here our next show and wiping egg off my face again about both of these games. But
Yeah, that's why I have the show, man.
yeah,
Just to clean the egg off of our face. I
yeah,
will say what's super fun. I didn't say it in my portion of talking about this game. We're going to get to see the two best receivers from this season go against one another. I mean, not obviously head to head.
yeah.
They're not going to be covering one another, but Stephon Diggs and Tyreek Hill have been absolutely out of this world this season, and that's going to be a very fun matchup.
Yep, it is. It's going to be a good one to see. Well, we're a little bit. We're about at our hour mark. That's what we like to keep them at. So, this was a great show. I cannot wait to watch these games on Sunday. And any last words?
I got nothing.
All righty. Well, if you enjoyed this show, again, give us a thumbs up. If you did enjoy it, give it a thumbs down. Leave us a comment down below. Let us know why you didn't. Let us know anything we can fix. Anything you would like to talk about. I know Phoenix, you were on here earlier. We will be getting into hockey. I'm going to study on it, and we will get into hockey a little bit too, and also basketball, things like that. It's just football's big right now. It's NFL playoff time, getting close to Super Bowl, but we are going to get into more stuff. So if you don't have anything else, I guess we're going to sign off. Y'all have a good one.